Good afternoon, beautiful beings of light. Welcome to the Wisdom Circle. My name's Priscilla, and Heather and I'd like to welcome our guests today. Wisdom Seeker Joan, our presenter. SunPsychic Jean, Kigaru Spiritual Journeys, Terry Suzuki, and Pure Visionary Terry Lee. Welcome, ladies. Lovely to see you again this month. For you guys that don't know, we get gathered together monthly as a discussion group of women regarding awakening, awareness, and ascension. Our goal is to share, support, and validate each other, as well as others who are following a spiritual path. We're here to share and discuss spirituality related theories, experiences, information, and perspectives from diverse backgrounds and points of view. We hope to make you laugh, to feel included, and maybe gain some insight or perspective on whatever is happening to you on your spiritual journey. Our individual paths are unique. No two of us are the same. So please take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. And remember, this is for entertainment and spiritual purposes only. Today is about the spirituality of birds, and Wisdom Seeker Joan is going to be our presenter. All participants' contact details are in the description of each Wisdom Circle video, as is a list of future Wisdom Circle show dates, presenters, and subjects. So please check that out. Now I'll turn things over to Miss Joan. Welcome, Miss Joan.
Thank you, Priscilla, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm going to jump in and add this presentation to the stage. We're talking today about the spirituality of birds and exploring the profound spiritual significance of birds in spiritual traditions. And I put together a little presentation and I kind of want to run through it, but mainly this is just sort of a preface to what is really important to me today, and that is talking to both my fellow Wisdom Circle members and you who are watching about some of your experiences with birds and how they support you in your spiritual journey. So we'll dive in. Birds embody a deep spiritual symbolism across various cultures, often representing the connection between earth and the divine. Their flight signifies freedom, transcendence, and the journey of the soul, reflecting humanity's longing for a deeper spiritual connection with nature and with the universe. I love, even though those are pigeons, I love that photograph.
I do too. I think it was a beautiful photograph.
Yeah. And birds are often seen as messengers of the gods or as manifestations of divine will. Their flight patterns, songs, and behavior have been interpreted as omens or signs from higher powers. And I don't know if you can really see this, but this photograph, talk about a manifestation in their flight pattern. This is a murmuration of starlings that was taken by a photographer off the coast of Costa Brava in Spain. And it's not photoshopped, which of course was the first thing I thought, but it's a murmuration of birds that's taken on the shape of a bird.
Wow. I've never seen them in that bird shape. And that
isn't it cool? And if you Google,
that's amazing.
Yeah, there's a couple of different ones out there on the web, but I just love this. And when you talk about a murmuration, that's, when they, all those amazing patterns they make, and they say that it's kind of like a school of fish, and each individual bird is very aware of every bird that it was within 7 inches of them. And so you spread that out over the whole flock. And that's how they all, like the ones on the left wing, know exactly where the ones over on the right wing are, because it kind of comes through. But that's just one of the magnificent things they can do.
Yeah.
And in history, in ancient Egypt, the ibis was revered as a sacred to Thoth or Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and knowledge. And this association positioned the ibis as a key figure in divine communication and guidance, and it's often depicted in hieroglyphs alongside different deities. The falcon is a symbol of Horus and is represented. It's represented the sky and kingship in ancient Egypt. It's often associated with divine protection and leadership, serving as a reminder of the connection between the earthly realm and the heavens. And the dove we're all pretty familiar with as a symbol of peace in Christianity, the universal symbol of peace and of the Holy Spirit, representing purity and divine presence. This was rather new to me when I wrote a book about that referenced about a bunch of religious iconography. And I hadn't really paid attention to the pelican, but it's a symbol of Christianity and of self sacrifice. It's the symbol of self sacrifice and nurturing, famously associated with Jesus. The imagery of the pelican feeding its young from its own flesh is often interpreted as a metaphor for Christ's love and sacrifice for humanity. But actually, the little pelicans don't. The pelican doesn't feed its young from its own flesh, but the little pelicans, the little nestlings, will peck at their mom, and that's what causes her breast to kind of bleed. So it's not true, but it's a pretty cool association. Garuda is known as the Mount of Vishnu in Hinduism. It's depicted as a powerful bird that serves as the Mount of Vishnu, representing strength, courage, and devotion. It's a mythical bird, also seen as a protector against evil forces and a symbol of spiritual power. And birds are often seen as guides and protectors, the eagle as a messenger, embodying strength and vision. In Celtic mythology, blackbirds and ravens are seen as powerful omens and guides, linking the physical world with the other world. And in shamanic traditions, birds are often seen as spirit animals or totems, offering guidance and support to shamans on their spiritual journeys. They're often seen as symbols as freedom and transformation. In ancient times, the crane in Chinese culture symbolizes longevity. And in Greek mythology, the phoenix represents rebirth and renewal, rising from the ashes to illustrate the cyclical nature of our lives. And in American folklore, the weaver bird is celebrated for its creativity and resourcefulness. Often, associated with resilience and adaptability. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that one. As birds are often part of rituals and divinations, using to interpret the will of gods or predict the future. So in Rome, the augurs studied the flight patterns and calls of birds to divine the future, believing they carried messages from the gods. In the Japanese Shinto period, associated with the sun god Amaterasu, the rooster is considered a sacred animal that heralds the dawn. And feathers and bird imagery are often used in ceremonies to invoke protection, healing, or blessings in African traditions. So, whoops. But that's all great and good for the history of birds and all the symbolism. But how do you interpret encounters when you have it's like a bird, something happens with a bird, and it's like, what's that all about? So if you find yourself encountering a specific bird repeatedly or dreaming about them, it may be a sign from the universe that this particular bird's spiritual meaning or attributes holds significance for you. So here are some ways to interpret these encounters. One way is to journal for insight, just to kind of write down your thoughts and feelings and any symbolism or attributes associated with the bird to help you understand its significance. Like I've been seeing cardinals a lot lately, and I've always associated cardinals, the male with my late dad and the female with my mom. But I thought, well, that's all been going on for a long time, but why are they showing up? And when I see them, it tends to be either early in the morning or kind of at dusk. And cardinals are they've got really good eyesight in low light situations. So to me, it's like more than mom and dad. It's like, yeah, hi, mom and dad. But I think in that instance, they were also telling me, you've got guides in dark times, so don't worry about it. That even in the darkness, you can rely on us to be there for you. So that's because of the attribute of the bird. It had a second level of meaning for me. So you can also meditate and visualize. It can connect you with the energy of the bird. Visualizing the bird and focusing on its characteristics may lead you to clearer insights and a deeper understanding of its message. And just trust your intuition. Your inner voice can guide you toward personal growth and understanding, helping you decipher the meaning behind the signs. So, overall, birds have captivated human imagination and spirituality throughout history. They highlight our intrinsic bond with nature and remind us of our connection to the greater cosmos and to the spiritual journey of the soul. So, thank you for bearing with me through that. Do any of my fellow Wisdom Circle friends have any comments about birds or any associations with bird synchronicities that you'd like to share?
Well, my spirit animal is a bird, and I've loved, and my mother loves birds, and she seems to connect with them, and she loves, we've always had these little figurine birds, and birds are always, not always, they're just precious and loving and sweet. They have this natural way about them that brings levity and hope. With especially the dove, but it's just especially the tiny birds and the hummingbirds and the all of the different even the larger birds, the falcons and things like this, they just have this way of reminding us of what's important, how to look at life. They really do convey an idea that pops into our heads when they have this impactful meaning, or when we have an impactful encounter with them, we feel that we have an idea of what they're trying to say or convey to us. And they're natural communicators, but they are just so lovely, so loving. And yeah, they do fight. I see them,
Fight.
chasing each other. And and but it's really just so beautiful, and that we coexist with them, and that we and that they can connect with us. But how about you guys?
I wanted to tell a story about when we were in Key West. I mean, other than we had a pair of doves that were definitely mates, and they were always back and forth, always together in the backyard. But what I wanted to talk about is she had an airplane that she had picked up. I don't really sold it or not, but um, we were going to fumigate the house for termites. But then when there was this one dove decided to build its nest in the wings, and it's a protected bird. So we canceled that. We weren't sure we really wanted to do it anyway, but we were told no, don't, because there's this bird here. And she had a nest and her young ones that were in there. And so it sent a message, don't. And we didn't.
Oh, how beautiful. Did you get to see the little babies?
Yes.
How
Yes.
cool is
I
that?
saw them all fly off. Yeah, we had a wraparound porch, and she had it hanging in one corner. And it was, what is it, about 3 foot around your airplane? The wingspan was at least 3 foot. So it
Yeah, it
was
was about
hanging.
3 feet. I think it was like on a child's ride. No, it was
Yeah,
one of those you could pedal with your feet. It
Oh,
was a
exactly.
kids.
okay.
It was an American Air. It had American Airlines on it. My father was a flight instructor for American Airlines, and I picked it up at um, I can't think of the word, where they resell everything on the weekends. One of the
Flea sale, flea market or something.
flea market. It was a flea market, a famous flea market between Fort Worth, well, on the east side of Dallas, that my older sister and I used to go to. And
Cool.
so I had it flying on the porch. It was
Mhm.
hanging and flying on the porch, and the birds took it over, and we
I
were
figured
flying
it
back.
was telling us don't
Don't
do the
fumigate.
house.
Don't
Yeah,
Yeah.
tent that house. So we didn't.
don't do that. And that was the message. The other message with the pair of doves that used to fly around in the backyard, and they just followed each other all the time. All I could think of that word was love.
Oh, that's so
all the
sweet.
time, every time I saw it.
Oh, speaking of love, Jean and I were doing a reading and together a while ago, and an image of swans came up, and Jean reminded me that swans mate for life, and that gave an extra level of depth to that reading. And so afterwards, I thought, oh, that's right. So I looked up which birds mate for life, and a bunch of them do, from eagles to penguins to everything. But it's the swan and the way they represent love that makes that attribute even more meaningful. So it's like, yeah, a lot of them might have that attribute, but what do you really associate with the bird? And that's another way to kind of interpret if a swan or those types of images come up for you, what it might mean.
When you see a swan, a lot of time, a pair of swans, you'll see a heart in their heads and
Mm-hmm.
necks.
Yeah.
The next, right. You
Touching
can't
They're
their
miss
very
it.
loving. They're very
yeah.
loving. They're also
So
very protective. Don't mess around with the mother
yes.
swan.
Yeah.
My mom lived in an older person's community, and she lived on the lake. You could look out the back door, and there were always swans swimming up and down with their little ones right behind them, as well as ducks. But it was really neat when we could see the swans.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Well, I have many, many birds on my property. I have a little sign inside my kitchen. Priscilla will testify. And it says, "This place is for the birds." And I have bird feeders in my windows. I have big bird feeders in the backyard. So I, kind of psychically invite the birds to play with me and give me messages. But I'm sure you guys have heard the story before, but I love to share it because it's my favorite encounter of a very powerful message from a bird. And I had an injury to my back. And for some period of time, I had to have therapy and I was working on it. And it was one of those things where, I'm like, I'm not this old. I shouldn't be having these kind of problems. So it was a really struggling time for me because I'm very active. And I started to feel a little bit better and I started walking. And then all of a sudden, I was able to hike with my husband, and we hiked down by the river a long ways and came around to come back through the forest. And I was just feeling so powerful and good. And I just kind of, in the middle of the trail, threw my arms out and I was kind of dancing. And all of a sudden, my husband was behind me. All of a sudden, a very large owl flew out of the forest and hovered right over me like they cruise over. My husband's like, "Oh my God." He was so it was like, oh, and the owl was my totem for some period of time now, and they still do speak to me from my woods at night. And I've also had other experiences with a red-tailed hawk, and those weren't always sweet experiences. The red-tailed hawk taught me a lot about planet Earth and how things work, because he would come down and help himself to a snack in my backyard occasionally. But he also did sit in front of my kitchen window and just stare at me one day. I was like, all right, I'm ready to learn the lesson you have to teach me. I've also, as you mentioned, the doves, I have many doves that come and feed in my backyard, but I was very surprised to see how much they fight, and they really do fight. I've seen them chase each other around my feeders. But it's all that power of the invitation. I've had many times when I've had an eagle fly up high over my head at a very moment when I just needed that encouragement. And I think the message here is that if you invite the spirit of the birds to come and speak to you, they certainly will. And the shamans have the hummingbird, which is a very powerful meditation they work with, and the drumming. And you can just actually reach out to whatever lesson you want to learn and invite birds to come and teach you. So
Cool.
I love them.
I was looking at Debbie's her comment about having an owl.
Oh, get out of.
I have a local owl that
That's
makes me
so
get out of my car before he'll leave the road. He only does it to me. Oh, my word.
Oh, that's wild.
very cool. Very cool.
Oh, that's great. When you were
I
talking
have a
about
story about a
go
bird.
ahead. Yes.
It's not a sweet story. My sister and I were sitting out on her porch watching nature, drinking tea one morning, and this beautiful roadrunner ran up. And Texas is full of roadrunners. So this beautiful roadrunner. We're hearing the birds and the trees and just having it was a bucolic moment. This roadrunner comes running up, jumps on the bird feeder, runs up the tree, and a couple of seconds later comes down out of a tree with another bird in its mouth and slams it in the ground. Slams this poor bird's body onto the ground. And my sister and I were horrified. We had just been so mellow and listening to the bird song, and it was a good lesson on what nature can be like. It's not always beautiful as that roadrunner let us know that morning. And I had one, I'm in my van in her carport in the back behind their house. And I had a roadrunner run right by me the other morning. And I thought, I remember you. It was like 10 years ago. I'm sure it's not the same bird. But we both got a big giggle out of seeing one and right by my van.
Wow.
And remembered that story. But it may not have been pleasant, but it was a reality check on what nature's really like.
It's a wild world.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a wild world, as Cat Stevens
What
said.
you really mean.
Yeah.
I had a message from birds about setting limits. And
Cool.
there were house finches. And I live in a house that has a porch, and the pillars that hold up the porch are the perfect little nesting places for all kinds of birds. And last year, it was the robins went in there and made a nest. And it's happened for years. I just leave them there and they make a big mess, but that's just fine. Well, last year, the nestlings, after they hatched and fledged, they jumped right up to right under my bedroom window in this nice little space underneath where my window air conditioner is.
Oh.
And they'd peep, peep, peep in the morning, and that's just fine. But they were carrying bird mites, and bird mites are smaller, these little bugs that are smaller than a grain of pepper. And they got in, and gosh, I only learned about bird mites because all of a sudden I was getting these bites all over the place. So I had to kind of evict them and spray things down.
Oh,
And
wow.
this year I decided no birds on the inside of the pillars, and I put rocks up there. And I thought, well, I'll do it for the one where it's closest to my bedroom window. But then just the other day, some house finches, I saw them coming and kind of scoping things out, and they started nesting on the other side. And I thought, nope. It's time to set some limits even for the birds. So I put rocks up there so they can't nest there. There's plenty of other places to make their nest.
Yeah.
I have a lot of birds in my yard.
Yeah.
And I always know if my spirit's kind of good and calm, because then, they fly around, but they don't necessarily fly away from me. I've even had a bird like land on my shoulder before.
Wow.
But I think they were confused. I think they thought maybe I was weeding something and was a rock or something. I don't know. But the other thing I do is I have crows, and I decided to do an experiment because you can train crows.
Yes.
And so I started feeding the 3 crows in the morning. And I would just put out a little bit of food and feed them. And the first year I did this, I learned to only do it for a little bit in the spring and then stop. Because once they have babies, they bring their babies, and the babies just squawk, squawk, squawk. They will be quiet. And it's just very loud. But what they took to doing is they would try to find out if I were available to feed them. And so my couch is right by my front window. And I like to wake up and have some coffee on the couch. And what they would do is outside that window, they would land on the gutter and then hang upside down to look in the window. One eye on me and see if I'm there.
Oh my gosh. So
And
cute.
so I know if they're hanging over the gutter looking at me, they're hungry. And so today, and it has been a long time since I actually came back, I had a crow eyeing me over the gutter this morning, so I had to go feed them.
That's so cool. They're going to be doing that for a long time because I've read that crows, whether they love you or don't like you at all, they'll remember that
Oh,
for
yeah.
5 generations.
Oh
They,
my,
it's in the DNA. They're
Amazing.
just so
wow.
smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had crows who decided that my little bird feeder was a good place to come. They'd go kill something or get some roadkill and then put it in my bird feeder to soften it up and then come back for it. And I thought, no. So I kind of emptied the bird feeder, or not the bird feeder, the bird bath.
Right.
They'd soak things in the water. Yeah.
They're
Wow.
very smart. Wiki
They
has
are.
an interesting comment about an owl. I don't know if you saw that, but it was, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There we
I
go.
live next to a park and walk the community. Many birds around me, but since I helped to rescue an owl, they seem to come closer to me. I'm getting buzzed by them. That is so fabulous.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And Delphi was saying, since she was a child, I know when it's going to
Yeah.
rain by how the sound of the birds singing hours beforehand.
Yes.
Huh.
That's
That
cool.
is so
And
cool.
do you all ever feel an eerie feeling when you don't hear any birds? Because
Yeah.
to me, that's always been like, okay, what's going on? There's something
Right.
happening.
Why are they quiet?
Yeah.
That's usually when a
And
predator
often that
will
happens
happen.
before earthquakes or major geographical activity there.
Oh,
Geological. Sorry, not geographical.
Debbie was saying, I feed my crows every day. They chase hawks away from my chickens.
Oh,
Oh, they
yeah,
do believe
cool.
they own you, though. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's cool.
We have a forest that's very close to here, and I've nicknamed it the Kingdom of the Crows. And truly, when you start to walk through, you can hear them warn each other as you're coming through the forest, and then they'll fly down. So I talk to them. I have my little, I won't do it now, but my little crow sound.
Oh,
So
come
I
on.
just
We
let them
want to
know
hear
it's
your
me.
crow sound.
No, no. Yeah.
I taught the crows to come to, like you call
That's
a
Ooh,
good.
dog. Yeah,
That's
they come to that.
that's so great. Tracy said birds have always been a connection and messenger for spirit and loved ones. My dad is very much a crow spirit. That's
oh, very
cool.
cool. Yeah. The crows will often leave you feather gifts too, as well. They do in the forest all the time for me, and I tie them to sticks, and I have some on my desk, and it's just a powerful image. And I think sometimes when you're meditating too, and if you are calling in the spirits of the birds to give you messages, if you've got a feather that you can hold while you're meditating, that's a very powerful invitation, and it works.
Let's see. Delphi was saying, I keep a bottle of water in my car to pour water in a cup for the birds in the parking lot. And this
Oh,
morning I did that at TJ Maxx. That
Oh,
is so
love
thoughtful of
that.
you.
that is sweet,
Beautiful.
Becky. Wow, that's really cool.
And Scott was saying, my mom had several bird feeders and a hummingbird feeder in the front yard, and he always felt calm and serene to watch them. They are, yeah, that's a
I
wonderful thing
always
to do.
watched hummingbirds with awe that they could do what they were doing.
Someone was talking about how, oh, well, we're talking about crows. One of the best messages I got from my late husband was a crow. I went off shortly after his funeral for a week out to visit relatives and a long car trip. And when I came back, I was hauling things into the house. And I looked up at the railing on the porch, and here was this big crow just sitting there. And it was so still that I thought it was like, why did somebody I thought it was like a puppet or a fake one. And
Yeah.
I walked up, and it wasn't looking out. It was looking, maybe it was looking in the window or something, but it just was sitting there. And we looked eye to eye when we came in, and then it scooted closer to me, and we must have stayed there, just looking at each other for 30 seconds or more. And finally I said, I got to get in the house. So thanks. But now it's like, and I think when you have encounters like that, they do say, no, that wasn't my husband's spirit in the crow, but birds and other animals are readily accessible to spirit who say, why don't I'm going to that maybe his spirit sent the crow, or
Yeah.
they're suggestible to suggestions from those on the other side.
They can blend with the
Yeah.
energy
Yes,
Yeah.
and
you're
and
right.
sort of like, come through and then go back. Of course, I have a couple of pictures if everybody doesn't mind.
Oh, we'd love it.
Sure, go
We
ahead.
love your pictures,
I know
Jean.
you guys are shocked to hear that.
Yeah, we are.
So, this is the first thing I saw when
Wow.
Joan told me that she was doing the birds, and I was just absolutely
What
just
is it?
amazed. I mean, I thought the only pink bird was a flamingo, but this
Me
was so
too.
rarity and so beautiful and so just striking. And how important it is that these animals of nature and these representations of spirit and the connection that we have with them. It is true. It is true and it is for real. But I just thought that was absolutely amazing. Um, and another
What kind
one
of
I
bird is
had,
it? Because it looks like a cardinal.
It does look like a cardinal.
A cardinal without a male without the crest.
Yeah, that's
I'm
gorgeous.
sorry, I didn't keep that part. I just these are the pictures, no words. No, I'm kidding. This is a beautiful blue crane, and I have a story that goes along with this crane, and the story goes like this: the one who dances with light. They say that, oh, it's a heron. Sorry, I said a crane. But they say that the heron was born where the sky touches water, woven not of feather, but of breath, mist, and morning flame. When the world forgets how to be still, he returns. He does not speak, he does not sing, he moves. Each step is a prayer, each wing beat a memory. He dances across the mirrored lake, not to be seen, but to remind the world how light learns and land softly. The clouds drift with him. The sky lowers its voice. He is in the balance between motion and stillness, a thread pulled tight between chaos and calm. Even in the storm, he does not tremble. Even when alone, he is never lost. The old ones say he teaches us this: not all strength is loud. Sometimes it is the grace of waiting, the patience of water, and the courage to rise without rushing. He is not a symbol, he is a truth, the one who dares to dance with light. So I just thought that was so very beautiful. I actually saw a blue heron in flight right outside of this house going straight down the street as if he was driving on the street. I said, there is no body of water near this house that he would be able to. I don't know where he came from, and I knew it was a sign. And it just shocked me. And I never saw anything that big and that blue flying, and it was flying low to the ground,
My
and
word.
I couldn't believe my own eyes. But I just thought that was so beautiful the way this crane or this heron dances. I just thought it was really beautiful. Now here's the swan that Joan was talking about. How beautiful and how graceful, and um, the that they mate for life. And I have to say, I was looking at these pictures, and I think it was, I was listening to one of Allie's shows, and she had a card that had a swan on it. And it was at the exact moment that I was looking at this picture that Allie, I was listening to a show in my ear, and she was saying, "You see the swan?" And I'm like, what? How does she know? I'm looking at this. It was, I mean, so it's, I think they call it like kismet, or that was such a strong synchronicity for me. Like, Jean, you're doing the right thing. You're where you're supposed to be. This, you could not have lined it up better. And I didn't spook myself, but I spooked myself a little bit. And here are beautiful peacocks. Isn't that just a beautiful image of the peacock and the reflection in the water? How beautiful. And this is just something that I thought was fun. I love anything shiny and sparkly, and this is just an artistic rendition.
Beautiful.
So, but I was really very inspired, Joan, and the love and the bird. I mean, there were so many birds that I was coming in contact with, and the signs and synchronicities of these birds in real life outside, and the memories that came back, and just it really is so rich, and so diverse, so miraculous. All of the different sentient beings here on this planet play together, work together, and are in harmony, and they show us how to interact. It's just so very beautiful. I love it. I love having the power animals. I love having the beauty and the grace and the stories and the folklore and the indigenous tribes making beautiful poems and stories about the birds dancing on the water. It's really a beautiful subject, and I was so happy when you chose to do this.
Well, I do love birds. And I love that you brought up the egrets and the herons. And for me, most of them, of those wading birds, for me are a good symbol of almost of manifestation, to just because they're just quiet and they let the fish come up from to them. So there is the reddish, I think it's the reddish egret, who will run around with his wings flapping and running. He'll go chasing them. But most of the wading birds just sit there very quietly. Maybe they'll
Quiet.
put their wings out and make shade. So on a sunny day, the fish will come into their shade, but then they don't have to like work so hard. So I always think of them about manifesting something. If you want something to come to you, call on the spirit of a wading bird, an egret or a heron something like that. Yeah, they're amazing. They look so prehistoric.
They do.
Mhm. I love that. Well, spiritually, look at Terry. Look at her stick with the
Oh, we can't
feathers.
hear you, hun. Terry, you're muted. Terry Lee. It looks like her talking stick.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I said since we were doing show and tell, and thank you, Jane. Those were beautiful. Somebody asking about me tying feathers to the stick, and this is a walking stick that I collect feathers as I walk, and then I tie them, and I've got some crystals on the stick as well, and it's just really a fun way to bring the bird power into your life. Like the Native Americans, they had like the eagle feathers for those who were warriors and that sort of thing. So if you give it power, it has power. And I have some amazing walks with the stick. So just wanted to show.
So fun.
I was going to talk about real quick about that. I don't have a spirit animal who's a bird, but when my guides give me permission to read the future, I always read the future through my third eye. But what happens is a hawk comes out of my third eye, and it kind of looks like. Let me see if I can do what Jean does. Share screen. Okay, share the screen. Now let's see if I can do it. Oh man. Okay, not good. Sorry. I am not always as okay.
Fine, Terry. Take your time. You have us
Yeah.
all on the edge of
Yeah.
We want to
I
see it.
blocked myself. Okay, we're just doing it old school, but I always think of that hawk like this particular
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Right.
You know,
Yes,
third eye,
yes.
there's a hawk.
Mhm.
And so when I ask permission to see the future, then they want me to kind of put my hands on my third eye, and then the hawk comes out and it flies out and it goes to the right and then it goes down a hall and then I watch where it goes and it will take me somewhere to read.
Wow.
Amazing.
But this last time, the very last time I got to read the future for somebody, the hawks did some amazing stuff. I had never seen a hawk. I mean, they usually just fly down the hall and they turn into a room and then I read that room. In this case, the hawk started to fly down the hall and then it did loop-de-loops. And I'm like, what? What?
What does
What's
that
going
mean?
on? And then it went into the room and it was just in sheer joy. The young boy I was reading on, or not too young actually, the mother wanted to know, will he be okay? And he was severely autistic, and basically the hawk was showing me that he finds his tribe, and the hawk was so
Aw,
excited about it. He did the loop-de-loops before going into the room,
aw,
and it was
Yeah,
that was kind of special to see. But
very
it's very
cool.
rare. I don't get to see that very often.
That's
That's
cool
very
that you see the
cool.
future through the Hawkeye. They
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
known for such great vision and everything. That's
Yeah.
really beautiful.
mhm.
I had a hawk experience. Well, it was a peregrine, a falcon experience.
Oh,
Hiking
Ooh.
with my family when my son was really little up we in the Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming, and there was this thing called the Medicine Wheel, a Native American place of worship for ages and ages. Anyhow, my son was getting bored, so my husband took him down, and I got a little bit longer time to. We were praying for somebody for I don't know health or something, so I was up there and for a few more moments, and then I thought, oh, the sun's starting to go down. I got to go. So at that time, I was a runner, and I started running. There weren't many people around, and there was this ridge. So I was like high up on this mountain ridge, running across it, when all of a sudden there was a hawk over to my left that was going the same speed for a while. And we looked at each other just eye to eye, and it just stopped me dead in my tracks. And then it started circling above me and just corkscrewed all the way up to heaven. And I
wow.
saw him with a little mask and everything. And at that time, I didn't know what kind of, I knew it was a hawk of some sort, but I didn't know what kind of hawk it was. You know, kind of small, but the little mask and everything that they have. So the next town we went into that had a bookstore, I went to the bird section and saw, oh, that's a peregrine falcon.
Peregrine.
They're the
Wow.
ones that can, you know, they design jet airplanes on how fast they are and how maneuverable they are. And so I thought, I don't know what that means. But I had also been involved in some other things, some projects. And when I came home, I met somebody the two people who were, their business names had the word Peregrine in them, Peregrine Publications and Peregrine Capital
Wow.
Management for different projects. It's like, yes, you're the one I need to work with on this. And yeah, so it was like, okay,
Wow.
I didn't get the message right away, other than I think this has to be important. But they've been special to me ever since. Yeah.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
I
love
love
that.
that.
That's
I
cool.
love that. It is for real. It is absolutely true. This is the way nature, our spirit guides, are that interact and work with us and validate. And
Mhm.
it's just so enchanting, and it never gets old when we find that validation in real life. And you
Yeah.
know that you're on the right path, that you're doing the right thing, that this is why we showed you this, and to have that just beautiful moment. That was really an amazing story, Joan.
I love that.
And
Love
I just, I miss the signs and synchronicities. I mean, I do get them, but they are far and few between. But each one is when you least expect it, and it's just even more rich than the last one. It's beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really believe that what you give power has power, and if you're inviting and you look around and you see, oh, that, and it'll come to you later maybe, but you're inviting to receive
Mhm.
those messages. If you just go, oh, that was nothing. That was a synchronicity. That wasn't, if you just
Electric
keep blowing
Island,
it off, you're
Greetings
not
of
going to
Diana,
have
Gerald
that
and Linda
power.
de Gonzalez.
Oh, I'm not
Somebody
sure what that
having a
was.
phone call?
What was
Yeah,
that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Ooh,
mine's off.
Does
Interesting.
somebody have something going with Linda de Gonzalez?
no.
That was a YouTube notification that she was coming on, but
Oh,
was that
okay.
you, Heather?
Oh, okay.
I think it was me. I've never had them do that before. So I'll have to see what it was and get it shut off.
Well, Vicky was saying I was taking a picture of a bald eagle yesterday. I have to keep an eye on them when I'm walking with Nico. He'd be a
Oh.
tasty meal if you weren't there. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you
but
see how those eagles up at out in California, the eagle's nest that everybody's been watching, the way those eagles hit the water
Oh, yeah.
so fast and grab. I can't even imagine how fast they could grab a dog or a cat off the street, or out of your yard, because some of those fish they pick up are pretty darn big.
Mhm.
The
I
osprey
knew
are just the osprey do that too, and they're so
Yeah,
amazing, and
yeah.
because they're so far above the body of water, I'm always like, "How do they know? How do they see
How do they
that?"
see so well?
Well,
But
if
Yeah.
you're far enough away from the water and it's calm enough, you can see into it.
straight into it, yeah.
Well,
It's
But I
true.
don't know how they can see the actual depth, so they only come down far enough to grab them.
mhm. Oh, pretty amazing.
I
Yeah.
know someone whose cat was almost taken away by an owl. It was a white cat, so maybe in the moonlight the owl could see it. But the day I saw this cat, which was pretty overweight, and that's probably a good reason for it, why it didn't get snatched. But it had big scars on both sides of its back because the owl had grabbed on, and the cat was just too rotund to take away. But
Saved its
yeah,
life.
yeah, it was a big cat, and it had a good grip, but couldn't get that one.
Oh, Lord.
Its claws were bigger than its whatever. I don't know.
Oh.
Than its appetite or something. Yeah, they're amazing.
Mm-mm-mm.
Well, I live in the near the same area as Wiki, and one time I was just going to my local IKEA, um, and I was in the intersection. It's my turn to turn left, and suddenly a bald eagle landed in the middle of the intersection and
Wow.
held up traffic. And because we see them so high up in the air,
Oh,
we don't recognize how large they are.
they're
This
big.
thing was at the head height, standing up, was taller than the front nose piece of my car. It was a massive bird. I
Wow.
didn't realize how absolutely massive they are.
Yeah,
Really.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
yeah, I
had one
agree.
fly in
The,
front of me recently in Fort Collins, and
Mm,
it flew right in front of the car, and I thought I was gonna hit it with the car. It seemed so close. And you're right, they're just enormous. They're bigger than your imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like when I lived in Texas. I don't know what happened to it because evidently this bird was injured in some way. It was a California condor. Whether it's in
Oh,
Texas,
Those are
I don't know. But it landed in my yard and I had two toy poodles, and the first thing I'm doing is getting him out. But I was scared of the darn thing. I mean, his wingspan was unbelievable and he was tall, and I'm going, I'm getting in the house, but you guys are going first. But and they are huge.
condors are huge.
Mhm.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so beautiful, Barbara.
Hmm.
that's
Wow.
amazing.
They are huge.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had condors out in California. I don't know why. I always seem to think of them as being at Machu Picchu, because you'll see people's pictures next to a condor at Machu Picchu, and they're the size of a truck. They're
Pretty
huge.
close. And I think I used to have a swimming pool in the back. And I think maybe he thought it was someplace to get water because it
Yeah.
was compared to, but I think he stopped.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Except it was
birds are the
down like
descendants
on
of
the
the
rim and
dinosaurs.
you just fell in. So,
Birds are the descendants of the dinosaurs, and when you get close to the bigger ones, you can really see that. You
yeah,
really
just
feel it.
want to get out of their way.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. My parents had a eagle experience. This was like back in the 90s, so the eagles hadn't come back as strongly as they are now. Now they hang around all the rivers and they're just everywhere. But at that time there weren't as many, and I think my dad had he had cancer and he was having a chemo appointment, and they were driving home along the Mississippi, and there's a big river gorge. And he looked at my mom and he said, I don't feel well. And she said, don't worry, you're going to get your strength back. And as soon as the words were out of her mouth, a bald eagle flew right in front of their car. She said, I thought I was going to hit it. It was so close. And if that's not a symbol of
Shine.
strength,
Yes.
nothing is.
Yeah.
So, and I think
Mhm.
that helped them through that period. And he did get his strength back for a while and everything. So they're there even in
Beautiful.
our darkest times. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So many bird stories.
Yeah, that is beautiful and amazing. And just so validating, the connection that we all have to them, and them to us, whether it's in the astral or the a different realm, or in this particular realm. One time I was, oh, go ahead. Amanda Carroll says, I remember seeing a golden eagle swoop down on the road of prey in Gunson, Colorado, and its wingspan easy as wide as the two lanes we were driving
Wow.
on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
They are amazing. Thank
That's
you, Amanda.
big.
Yeah,
That's
that's
big.
another time you stay in the car.
Remember the bald eagles in Maine, Heather? When we were at
Yes.
the lake in Maine, it was a
Yeah.
pair of bald eagles.
Oh, how
And I
nice.
used to see them also in western Kansas on top of telephone poles.
Mhm.
And remember that when we would drive up the Keys, there would be great big huge nests on top of the poles.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
never
love.
expected to see an eagle in the Keys, and definitely
Yeah.
we did. Definitely we did.
I like
I
eagle. Another thing that I associate with eagles is how both the male and female, after the chicks are hatched, bring back food to feed these kids, the nestlings. And
Mhm.
by the time the nestlings fledge, they're bigger than the parents. And that's good, because those parents have been working hard. You're getting to those fish and the mice and everything for all this time, and they're pooped. But the kids, the eaglets, aren't very good at fishing. They're not very good at hunting for a while.
No,
So
they're
they
not.
need that
Yeah.
extra food to kind of until they learn how to do this themselves. But
Mhm.
it's so amazing to think that in just a couple of a month or two, the eaglets are bigger than the
Did
parents.
you guys watch the eaglets this year at Big Bear? There's these cams. I can't remember what they're called. I'll send
Oh,
them.
yeah.
They
I checked in
they
on it a
just
couple
fledged
times.
a couple of weeks ago. Their two babies
Yeah.
fledged a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and now they haven't. They had the babies haven't come back to the nest, so I don't. The mom and dad are still hanging around there, but I don't know what happened to the youngsters. But it was really interesting watching them
Mhm.
feed feed and fight over the food that mom and dad would bring, and how every once in a while mom and dad would have to put them in their place. It was really interesting. I watched it all spring, off and on, and I think there's another one in Colorado that's on YouTube as well. The babies were a little bit later, but the one at Big Bear, it's right over Lake Tahoe, and you can see Lake Tahoe in the background from their nest. They're beautiful.
Yeah. That's
Eagles
cool.
are amazing.
I
Yeah.
love how in the beginning of your presentation, Joan, you got into the Egyptian reference and the gods and the hybrids that came in and represented the gods and the different, uh, you know, types of ETs that would, be combining with. I don't know if they were combining or if that's just the way the ET was, but um, it's just fascinating that even as far in history as that they were revered and honored and looked up
Mhm.
to, and and could it be that we look at them that way now because of where it began, like I
Yeah.
felt that we're all seated here. Each blade of grass, or not blade of grass, but each different sentient type or species of plant and animal were seated here
Mhm.
to thrive or to be in harmony. And I also feel that the birds have their own either universe or planet or place of home where they live. And
Right.
mhm,
That's
mhm.
cool. I
Mhm.
hadn't thought about it like that, but you're right. I don't know if you've heard of this Anunnaki 2025. It is a AI story of the Sumerian tablets and the Anunnaki coming. And the Anunnaki, like I said, this is all AI, but some of the Anunnaki had the falcon heads. They looked like falcon heads.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Some of them look like human, but the workers, the ones that the army people, it seemed like they were all. like falcon headed. I thought that was rather interesting, but it's on
Mhm.
YouTube and it's free. If you get a chance, it's pretty interesting to watch because it just takes, the book of Gilgamesh, the, all those, um, Sanskrit, is it Sanskrit that those are written in? Anyway, it takes that whole story of Gilgamesh and all of that and puts it together, and it's kind of interesting. It's
Mhm.
story of
Absolutely.
the Anunnaki and how they came here and how many hybrids were made from humans as well as, the aliens.
There's
And some of
also the blue avians.
Oh,
the
yeah.
blue
Yeah,
aliens, sure.
and they're
Yeah,
very beautiful. Fun.
yeah.
Well, they're all very happy that we're just talking about them today.
Yes. So,
I have to put a vote in or a comment in for one last type of bird and what it represents to me, at least, and that's
Cool.
turkeys. Resiliency and adaptability. I just get such a huge kick out of the fact that I've got urban turkeys, right in the inner city neighborhood. There's a whole flock of turkeys, and when I go out for a walk, they're in different places. Then I kind of discover them and take pictures and all of that. And I think it's just
Isn't it weird
hilarious.
to see them in a city?
I
When
know.
we lived Heather and I were
Oh,
still living
really?
in Texas, I was at a traffic light like you that saw the eagle. It was in the center of the intersection. This was on the light pole that went over with the red light hanging off of it.
Mhm.
There was a huge turkey sitting on top of that. I was like,
And
"What?"
and when I lived in Kansas, it was a general announcement. The turkeys are here. I mean, that flock was so big, it covered every tree, and the trees were full of turkeys. Hoxie was not a real small town. It's not real big, but it had 2,000 to 4,000 people in it. It was a large, spread out town. Kansas are always spread out, but all the trees were all full of turkeys. You couldn't go anywhere that they weren't just all layered through the trees for
that's
a
I
great.
say
couple
they
days, and
migrated
then
through your
leave.
town.
We're just a stopping
Yeah,
point.
I see a lot of them in Colorado. Turkeys and geese are the two big ones
Yeah,
that
they
the
can get,
geese are in everybody's yard. They're everywhere, and the
yeah,
turkeys aren't far behind.
yeah.
There's a bunch of them. I love
Urban
turkeys. I
turkeys.
used to collect turkey feathers, off of our ranch. One morning, I woke up and walk outside with a cup of coffee. There were 45 turkeys in my front yard.
Oh my gosh.
45. I counted every single one of them.
Were They can be very mean. Did you encounter any? Yeah, I
No,
stayed at a
my
cabin in the
dog.
woods
As
once,
soon as they
and
saw my dog, they would fly, and I was like, "A turkey flies?" The first time I saw him fly, I was just amazed at because we had
I know. I
50-foot
can't
pine
figure out
trees,
how
and
they
they
can do
flew
it.
over the pine tree.
They are not aerodynamic.
No, not at all.
no, but they can be mean.
Yeah.
So can swans. A friend of ours, my parents had swans on their pond, and they were attack swans. They were like guard dogs. They were they were scary.
Yeah, they're big and strong.
So
Mhm.
Lark Kemper had a question. He said, "Have any of you guys flew in your dreams?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I was going to say I used to fly. Now I just think about where I want to be and I'm there. But I do remember flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's something you remember, I would think. I mean, I
Mhm.
have had them ever since I was a young child. So, but it's something you never forget. In a dream, you wake up and you go, "Wow, I was flying."
Yeah, yeah, and
That's
I remember hovering, watching a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm hovering above.
Nice. Yeah.
I
wow.
mainly bounced. I don't remember dreams anymore, but I used to get the bouncing dreams where I'd put my arms out like this and the wind would come up and I would, and then bounce down again.
I
And
wonder
so
what
it's sort of
that
like
means. I haven't
the
heard of that
bouncing
one
dream.
before.
Yes, I love the
Cool.
bouncing dream.
There is an app called Merlin that, a friend in Sacramento showed me, when I was visiting her, one of the girls in our group, and, it's called Merlin, and you put it out on your table, and it picks up the voices of the birds and tells you what birds are around here.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I've been doing that here at Jan's, and it's like, "I didn't know we had these colorful buntings here. Oh my gosh, there were so many different birds that I had no idea even existed in this area."
Uh,
It's so much fun to watch. And each time they tell you it's a bird, you can click on that bird information, and it'll take you to a whole bunch of information about that bird and
Awesome.
tell you all about it. It's really
Yes.
fun
The
app.
the Merlin app, it's from the Cornell Labs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Merlin Bird ID. And
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that, but we did it the other way, where you'd play a song, and then like you'd play a Cardinal song, and then the Cardinals will come in and talk to it, and that's always
Oh, how
fun too.
fun.
Cool.
That's fun.
I love
I
that.
like that. Really
Yes.
interesting. Joan, what a fun afternoon. Thank you so much for thinking of spirituality of birds. I was
Love
clueless
it.
when you said that. I was
Well,
like,
give me an excuse to talk about birds, and
I
I'll
knew
jump
you
on.
loved birds, but I thought, okay, she's taking it to the next level. And as soon as I saw your presentation, I was like, oh, yeah, hello. But I really was not getting the spirituality of birds. And now I'm so glad you did it because it really has been beautiful.
Well,
So thank
thank you
you
very much,
very
and
much.
thanks everybody for sharing
Very
your
nice.
stories. And I hope that we all have more bird encounters, and maybe could
I do
share
too.
more
I do have
stories.
crows that follow me. They follow me on my travels. That's kind of strange, but it's interesting. So, Joan and Jean and the Terrys, I know you guys get together every week. When are you all together again?
Let's see.
I have on my book Friday. Um, Friday the 11th, Terry Lee is hosting for the Psychic Triad.
Awesome.
And then on Tuesday the 15th, Joan, Terry, and I are together.
What
And
time?
yeah,
What time on the 15th?
three. Oh no, I'm sorry. 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific.
Fantastic. Heather and I will be on again on the 15th. We're going to be doing, well, excuse me. Heather is doing a remote view of the Roslyn Chapel.
But she
And
does all the background, so don't let her tell you that she doesn't do anything.
but she's going to remote view that, so that should be a really interesting show.
Yeah.
What about you, Suzuki?
Oh, well, I'm going to be with Jean and
Psychic
Terry,
triad. Yeah.
Okay.
Jean
And
and Joan. And,
how long are
yeah.
you in the States for? When do you go back to Japan?
Oh, not till October. So I got,
Okay, so we got you for a
yeah.
while.
But I'm,
Well, I'm
I'm
going to
doing
start
the
scheduling
weekend.
guests again pretty soon. So
Yeah.
I'm
I've been
still
going to
working.
weekend fairs. So I'm storing up stories.
Yay! So we have Suzuki stories, Terry's tales. I love it.
Yes. Love that.
Everybody in the chat room, thank you so much for being here today. We love having you all. Love to see your responses to what we're talking about. It's just fantastic. I'll be the next presenter for the Wisdom Circle because Joan and I switched months, and I'm going to be talking about the importance of fear in our spiritual lives.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
and
fear and spirituality.
I wanted to ask because my brain doesn't always remember. Did we ask Terry Lee what she's going to do?
Well, you didn't, but I'll repeat it at this Friday, the 11th, 4:30 Eastern, and that's 1:30 Pacific, right, Terry? It's the
Mhm.
Psychic Triad, and that'll be on my channel, Pure Visionary Psychic Medium. Thank you, Heather.
Yes. Fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
ladies, thank you so much. And I guess it's time to say goodbye and much love to all of you. And thank you again for being here this month. I just love
And
these.
thank you all who watched.
And
Yes.
all of
Thank
you
you.
out in the chat room, thank you for being here and being our guests today. We appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Until next time, then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.